Hello, everyone, and welcome to your math final exam review. Congratulations, you are almost there. This will be your last review. It will be a little bit of a longer review, so we may need to break it up into two pieces. But let's get started. So how I would like you to set this up is I'd like you to work with two sheets of paper right now. Your first sheet of paper is notes that you will use on the test, and I'll call these notes. Your second sheet of paper is scrap paper, and this is what you'll do the practice problems on, but you will not use this scratch paper on the test. I repeat, do not use this scratch paper on the test, just the notes. I will go through things pretty quickly on this review because there's so much. So if I go too fast, just come ask me, and I'll slow it down for you. All right, here we go. So vocabulary. First vocab is the Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem is my equation is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We'll go through this in a sec, and also, it is for finding the length of sides of right triangles. So right triangles, that is what it is for. Part of the Pythagorean theorem is you need to know what your sides are called. So attached to my right angle are my legs. My legs in my equation, my legs go in for A and B. Oops, legs. So it does not matter which leg goes in each one. Just remember legs go in for A and B, and your hypotenuse. My hypotenuse is across from my right angle. That's my hypotenuse, and my hypotenuse always goes in for C. Always, always, always my hypotenuse goes in for C. Part of your test 2 is you have to find the area of a square. Now, the equation for area of a square, if I have a square, and let's say one side is 4 inches. That means this side is 4 inches. All I do is times 4 times 4, and I'd get 16 inches squared. So you can do S times S for your notes on your equation, or you could do S squared. Because 4 squared is also 16. If you have S squared, that will work. If you're working backwards, and actually we'll get to that later. Don't worry about that. Scientific notation. I absolutely love that Mr. Baker was nice enough to have scientific notation be a big part of this test. Scientific notation is nothing but counting. It's what we use very large numbers. That is what we use scientific notation, or very small numbers. So scientific notation is if I had 1.23 times 10 to the 4th, that is scientific notation. Your decimal always goes after the first number, and your power, that is what you count by. So the answer to this is I would do 1.23, and I would count 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. If there's nothing there, I put my zeros. I count 1, 2, 3, and I put my comma. So it'd be 12,300. That is my scientific notation. Now, I want you to pause this recording and number 1 through 12, all the way down, 1 through 12, go. All right, so for each number 1 through 12, I would like you to square them. Pause it again and square each number. Go. All right, look down. So 1 squared should equal 1. 2 squared equals 4. 3 is 9. 4 is 16. 5 is 25. 6 is 36. 7 is 49. 8 is 64. 9 is 81. 10 is 100, 11 is 121, 12 is 144, and let's do 13 just for kicks. 13 is 169. Those are all your numbers squared. Just in case you forget on the test, those are your numbers. Now, the next part of this on your note sheet, I want you to have the square root of each number. You already have them down because the opposite of squared is square root. So for example, if I just took the square root of 9, it would be 3. So, on your notes, this, excuse me, the first number is the number squared, and this is the number square root. If you just work backwards, the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 5 is 25. So since you have that chart, now you have all your squares and square roots that you will need, and that is a big part of this test. Next piece is combining like terms. So combining like terms is when you have terms that are similar. So let's say I had 6x and 3b plus 2x plus b. If I have that and there is no equal sign, what I do is I just combine my like terms. So combine what's alike. So on this one, my two x's are alike. So I have 8x's. And my b's are alike. So I have 1b plus 3b. That is 4b. That would be my answer. Equation. So an equation is anything that has an equal sign. A lot of these you'll see like 3x plus 4 equals 16. If it has an equal sign, you have to find what x is. If it does not have an equal sign, just combine your terms. We'll go through that again later. Linear equation, y equals mx plus b. That is my linear equations, and my m is my slope. And slope is equal rise over run. And my b is my y-intercept. I know I'm going through these quickly, but make sure you have these notes. We will go into more detail in this later in the recording. And I believe my last one is an exponential equation. So an exponential equation is something that has an exponent. So my exponential equation is y equal. I have my y-intercept, my b, and then I have my growth factor and an exponent. Again, just copy that down. We'll come back to this later. That goes on your notes page. I would like you to put your notes page to the side and get out your scratch sheet of paper now. All right, let's do some practice problems. So scientific notation, we practiced them before. I showed you how it's done. I would like for you to pause your recording now. So for scientific notation, like I said, it's just counting. So I have 2.34 times 10 to the fifth. All I do is move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my answer, 234,000. Just counting. Same thing, 7.312. Move it 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 731 million. Now, notice this negative number. There's no trick to this. You just move in the opposite direction. This is used for very small numbers. So I have 4.16. Move it 4 in the negative direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my new decimal. 0, 0, 0. And for small numbers, decimals, we do not use commas. Here are your next two problems. I want you to work it backwards. So give me a decimal with scientific notation. Please pause your recording now. All right, so scientific notation. Remember, decimal goes after the first point. So this one will be 4.56. I have to get my decimal to there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4.56 times 10 to the 7th. Last one, I have a very small number. Again, I need to get it right there, 3.45. I know that can be confusing since we're not going to the end, but right after your first number is where my decimal goes. I have to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 10, and it's a negative number, 10 to the negative 5th. I hope that was helpful. That's all we're going to do in scientific notation. Let's jump right ahead. The next piece is the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem, you'll remember, is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. My legs are 3 and 4. Find the hypotenuse. Go. Remember, my legs go in for A and B, so my first leg, my second leg, and my C squared. Now, I really want you to try to set it up just the way I am and keep it very organized. Just work down. Try not to jump on the other side of the equal sign with numbers. Keep your C there. So I have 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, equals C squared. So 9 plus 16 is 25, equals C squared. Now, I have to get the C by itself. So the opposite of squared is square root. Square root, I just got rid of that squared. I have C by itself. I have 5. My hypotenuse is 5. And don't let the teacher give you points off for not labeling. So my hypotenuse is 5 inches. That is how long my hypotenuse is. Next problem is a very similar type problem. On your scratch sheet of paper, please do this. Go. Let me erase the last one. My A is 12 squared. My B is 5 squared equals, and I do not know my hypotenuse. 12 squared, use your chart if you need it, is 144 plus 25 equals C squared. 144 plus 125 is 169 equals C squared. Have to get rid of that squared. Square root it. Square root it. C equals 13 feet. Again, I know I moved fast. If you do not get it, come see me, or there's always plenty of videos on YouTube about Pythagorean theorem. Okay, this one I'm throwing a little wrench in it for you, so I want you to work backwards now. I have one leg I do not know. One leg equals 6 millimeters. The other, and the hypotenuse is 10 millimeters. Make sure you set up your equation correctly. Go. I do not know my first leg. I know my second leg is 6 millimeters, 6 squared, and I know my hypotenuse is 10. Still do not know my A. 6 squared is 36. 10 squared is 100. This is why it's important that you keep it organized. I have to get A by itself, so I have to get rid of everything else on this side, which means I have to get rid of 36. The opposite of plus 36 is minus 36. Minus 36. That gives me 64 on this side. That cancels it out on that side. A squared is 64. Again, get rid of the squared. Square root it. Square root it. A equals 8 millimeters. That is what my leg equals. That is Pythagorean theorem. Hopefully that helped. Moving into graphing. So what you'll notice about this test is, again, this goes on your scratch sheet. If you just study your previous tests, that's pretty common for teachers to reuse things from previous tests on finals. So let's look at this problem. I'm going to go through this uber quickly because I know this was on a previous test. And this was also in your study packet, by the way. So how can I reflect my A to get to my A copy? How you do it is you would reflect it over the x-axis. Reflect it over here, and then reflect it over the y-axis. So reflect it over here. If you had that backwards, reflect over y and then reflect over x, that is also correct. Make sure you write in complete sentences. Do not give anybody a reason to give you half off. Describe the rotation, how I got from here to here. I rotated it. You could either say clockwise or counterclockwise. Either way. I rotated it around the origin, around point 0, and I rotated it 180 degrees. Please include all of those. The last one, so I have to describe the rotation. How did I get from there to there? Describe my coordinates. My key word in here is coordinates, so I actually have to find the coordinates. So my A is at over 1 up 4, so 1, 4. My B is at over 3 up 3. And sorry, scroll down. So my copy, my A copy is at over 1 in the negative direction and down 4. My B copy is over in the negative 3 direction, down 3, so if I had to make a rule for it, which means if my normal one, my A, this one was xy, my new equation would be negative x, negative y, because I'm just looking at these, just those became negative. That's the first piece of graphing. Remember just to study your previous tests. The next piece of graphing is being able to write a linear equation. So a linear equation, linear just means straight. So linear is a straight line. So again, my linear equation, if you look back to your note sheet, is y equals mx plus b. On your scratch sheet of paper, and again, this is from a previous test. On your scratch sheet of paper, please, I want you to, line 1, that means line 1. So this is line 1, this line right here. Write an equation for line 1. Pause it now. So the trick for writing equations is finding points that are exactly where the two lines cross. So there's my first point, and there's my other point. So y equals, my slope is m. So this one, rise over 1, it rises 1 and runs 1. X always goes next to my slope. And where does it cross the y-intercept? That's my b. So it crosses the y-intercept right at 2. So my equation is 1 over 1 x plus 2. Please simplify that. 1 over 1 is the same as 1 or just plain x. So you could have 1x or just plain x plus 2. I want you to pause your recording now and please do lines 2 right there and line 3 right there. Please write that equation. Go. So line 2 is right here. Again, find 2 points right on the line. Here's a point right here. There's a point right there. Y equals, this rises 1 and runs 2. I cannot simplify that at all. X goes next to my slope, and then it crosses at negative 1, because there's my origin. Make sure you get that negative in there. Don't forget that. My line 3, let's find 2 points. Here's a point right here, and it doesn't have 2 crossing points again until right there on that line. So y equals, that goes down 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2. So 3 over 2x, and it crosses the y-intercept right at positive 3. Oh, I almost forgot. We read lines like we read books. So since we read from left to right, this is going up, that's going up, this line is going down. If it's going down, it is a negative 3 over 2. I apologize, almost forgot that. That's how you graph lines. Know how to do that one. All right. Systems of equations, I'm not really going to go through, and you're not going to have to do anything on your sheets of paper for this. I just kind of want to go over it real quick. Systems of equations are, you get 2 lines, and you just have to graph those lines. So this first one is negative 2x plus 2. If there's nothing underneath it, put a 1. That means go start at positive 2. So start at 1, 2. That's my y-intercept. And go down 2 over 1. Down 1, 2 over 1. Down 1, 2 over 1. Do it a couple times. If you want to do it backwards, the opposite of down 2 is up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. You should have a perfectly straight line, just like mine. Now do it again for the second equation. So start at my y-intercept, 2, and go up 3 over 1. Up 1, 2, 3 over 1. You can do the backwards, down 1, 2, 3 over 1. You have your straight line. The solution, the answer to systems, are where the 2 lines cross. The 2 lines cross right there at over 0, up 2. That's my answer. That's all I'm going to do for systems. There are, I think, 3 systems on the test. Just graph both equations and see where they cross. If you have any questions about that, please come see me. All right, algebra, everyone's favorite, algebra. So remember, if there is no equal sign, Do not solve. Just combine. I'll show you the first one, and then we'll go from there. So this first one, I have 3x, and then I have 4 parentheses x minus 5. If there is nothing between the parentheses and the numbers, we have to do the distributive property. So I distribute that 4 to the x. I distribute that 4 to the negative 5. When I distribute, I times. So I have 3x still. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Now I have to look, since there's no equal sign, I have to look to see if there's anything I can combine. I can combine my like terms. My like terms are these two. 4x plus 3x is 7x minus 20. That cannot go with everything because it has no x to it. I cannot combine that. That is my answer right there. Done. Please try those two. Go. All right, same type problems. Distribute that 6 out. 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 4 is 24. And then I have my minus 4x, which I do nothing with it. 6x minus 4x is 2x. And then I have my 24. I can't do anything with that. That's my answer. And last one. Pause it now if you have not done it. All right, distribute this out. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 6 is 30. And I minus 15. Now I have no x's to combine, so that 5x is by itself. I can combine the 30 and the minus 15. 30 minus 15 is positive 15. That is combining like terms. Now we have equations. So remember, if it has an equal sign, it is an equation. And if it is an equation, solve for the variable. My variable in this first one is x. I will show this one as a demonstration, and then you'll have 2 practice ones. So I have 2 sides to my equation. The equal sign splits it up. The opposite, so you start with what's not attached to x. 3 and x are attached, so let's start with the 7. I got to get rid of that. To get rid of it, you do the inverse or the opposite. The opposite of plus 7 is minus 7. Minus 7. 13 minus 7 is 6. 3x equals 6. I have to do the opposite of, if there's no sign, they're multiplying. Do the opposite of multiply, which is divide. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. That crosses that out. X equals 2. Stay organized just like that. Remember, do the inverse to get it by itself. Please pause the recording and do 2 and 3 now. All right, same type problem. Do the opposite of 9p minus 16. The 9 and the p are attached, so let's start with the 16. The opposite of minus 16 is plus 16. Plus 16, that's 27. That crossed out. I have 9p equals 27. If there's no sign, they're multiplying. The opposite of multiply is divide. Divide by 9, divide by 9. P equals 3. And last one, I hope you combined your like terms before you started. This one's a little bit challenging, but 4x minus 2x, you can combine those before you start. 4x minus 2x is 2x. Minus 2 equals 16. The opposite would be plus 2 plus 2. Oops. Plus 2, that gives me 18. 2x equals 18. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X equals 9. Last one of algebra. I know it's a lot, but last one of algebra. I have distributive property, and then do your algebra. Set, go. All right, distribute this out. 4 times b is 4b. 4 times 7 is 28, equals 40. Now I do my algebra. Minus 28, minus 28. That is 12 equals 4b. Divide by 4, divide by 4. B equals 3. Again, I moved fast. I know that. But if you can do all these, you will be so unbelievably prepared for the test and you will ace the algebra part of this test. If you could not do these, try watching it again. If that still doesn't work, come see me. I'm happy to help. All right, this is another form of algebra, and this was on our last part. So this time, instead of solving for a number, we're just trying to get something by itself. We just want to get the y by itself. Again, it's just like algebra. We're just moving things around. So get the y by itself. I will show this first one as a example. This was on your last test review, and this problem was on your last test. So hopefully you got it then. But I'm trying to get y by itself. In order to get y by itself on this side, I have to get rid of what's not attached first. The 4x isn't attached first. The opposite of positive 4x is negative 4x, negative 4x. Now, this is where people get confused. It wants you to put your x next, so write your x first. So I have 5y equals negative 4x, and that is a positive 20. I hope that didn't lose you. I just wrote the x first. The next piece is I have to get y by itself. In order to get y by itself, I have to get rid of the 5. So divide by 5. Divide the whole thing by 5. Y equals. If it does not divide equally, keep it in fraction form, please. 4 does not divide by 5 equally, so I have a negative 4/5 x. 20 divided by 5 is 4. That is my answer. I cannot reduce any further. This is my slope. This is my y-intercept, just like they wanted it. Okay? Use that as an example and try this next one, please. All right. So I have a negative 3x plus 6y. I got to get that y by itself. The opposite would be to plus 3x. Plus 3x. Get that out of there. I have 6y equals, write your x first, positive 3x. Positive 18. Divide by 6. Divide the whole thing by 6. I have y equals 3 over 6x. 18 divided by 6 is 3, and I can reduce that. If you reduced it, great job. That's my final answer. We're having fun now. Linear equations. So again, linear equations, y equals mx plus b. More linear equations. So I need you to write, if you remember, this was one of the hardest tests of the year. We did something exactly like this. You have to graph these points out and then give a linear equation. If you know how to do it, pause it and try it now. All right, so I'm going to draw a very rough graph. Very rough. So my first point is over 0 and up 15. Let's put that right there. This is 0, 15. My second point is over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 3. 1, 2, 3. We'll put it right there. So over 5, up 3. And that's on a line. And we need to make an equation for that line. So y equals my slope. I go down from here to here. So I go down 12. My y, rise over run. So down 12. And I go over from 0 to 5. Or if you wanted to count it from here to 5. So I go over 5 places. So 12 over 5. X goes next to my slope. And I have to put my y-intercept. My y-intercept, it crosses the y right there. It crosses at 15. That's a very hard problem. And that was a very hard problem on our first test. But it's something like that's on this test as well. So you have to think a little bit here. This one is much easier. You have a slope of 1/2. And you have a point at 0, 6. Write a linear equation now. All right, so they already give me my slope for my equation. Don't overthink it. If you already have the slope, just use the slope. So my slope is 1/2, so y equals 1 over 2. X always goes next to slope. And my y-intercept, I have a point at over 0, up 6. right there. So that actually is my y-intercept. It gives you everything in the problem. You have both types of these problems on the test. If you please only put those on your scrap sheet of paper, not on your notes. Yeah. Oh, by the way, as we go through these, if there's something you don't get, put just one problem on your notes, and we will go from there. Last part of this, you have something like this. Do not put this on notes. Just put it on your scrap sheet of paper. It gives you the x and the y, and you have to write an equation. So here's where people get stuck. My x is my run. My y is my rise. So you actually have to put, look how much this goes up by each time. This goes up by 4. And this goes up by 2. And you have to write an equation out of this. So my rise goes on top. So actually my y goes on top. So 4 goes on top. 2 goes on the bottom. X goes next to slope. And my y-intercept is where the x is 0. That's 4. When I simplify it, I have y equals 4 over 2 is 2x plus 4. That is how I do those. Oh, rise over run, y-intercept. It's all any linear equation, rise over run, x, y-intercept. That's all you need to know. It doesn't matter what form they give it to you in. We just did these on the last test. Remember. Oh, go back to your notes section now. On your notes section, please write all angles of a triangle add up to 180. So all 3 add up to 180. All right, go back to your scrap sheet of paper. On the scrap sheet of paper, you see ACB, the middle angle. The middle one is the angle they're talking about. So this is the angle they're talking about there. Find out how big that angle is, and then use that for BAC. Here's my middle one. BAC, find out how big that angle is. Pause your recording now. So again, all angles have to equal 180. So this one right here, oh, a line also has to equal 180. I'm sorry, I should have put that in. Put that in your notes section as well. Okay, so 180, if I know this from here to here is 132, to find the whole thing, all you do is 180 minus 132, and that gives me 58. So this is 58. We just did this, so hopefully it's pretty easy for you guys. The next one, if I know this is 58, and I know this is 90, this is 90. So 90 plus 58 is 148. So I got to find what this is. So that'll be left. From 148 to 180, I can do my subtraction. That is 2. That is 32 degrees. BAC is 32. So everything adds up to 180. Lines and triangles. Hopefully that wasn't bad because we just did it. If I move too fast, come see me. Growth factor. So my growth factor is something that we have not talked about in a long time. Growth factor is part of exponential equations, and how it works is all you do, and this is on your scrap sheet because you'll see something like this on the test. Your growth factor, let me flip through my notes real quick. Okay, so how to do my growth factor is 1.5. So you take that, and if I'm trying to find the growth rate, how quick it grows, we haven't done this for all I know. You drop the 1 off. Get rid of the 1. So that's 0.5, and then you turn that into a percent. So 0.5 equals 50%. There was a piece of this in your review packet. There was a chart in your review packet that Mr. Baker gave you and he went over. If I moved way too fast, look over that. But what you know, take your decimal, drop off the 1, you have 0.5 left. 0.5 is 50%. That's the percent that it changed. You have a couple like that. This is exactly out of your review packet. Exactly out of your review packet. I'll go over it again because it's kind of important. Hint, hint. I hope you paid attention while he was going over it in class. So, in your review packet, you have to look. First one is linear growth. Remember, linear goes up by the same amount every time. So, this one obviously goes up by 10. For every one, it goes up. It goes up by 10. So 25, 35, 45. We'll save this one till the end. My equation. Again, y equals mx plus b. So much linear graphing on this test. Y equals mx plus b, and so my slope, my rise, it goes up by 10 every time. My run is just 1, because that goes up by 1. And my y-intercept, where x is 0, oops, where x is 0, x goes next to my slope, where x is 0, 5 is my y-intercept. Simplify that to y equals 10x plus 5. So there's a couple ways I could do this. You could count all the way up to 200 for this one right here, or you could just put 200. Since this is my y, you could just put this 200 in for y. So I could have 200 equals, just use your equation that you just made. You know how to do this right here. Minus 5, minus 5. 10x equals 195 divided by 10. Divided by 10, x equals 19.5 months. Or you could just count up until you got to 19, and you could tell that it was in between 19 and 20. Know that. Hopefully it's on your review packet. Hopefully it's done. I know Mr. Baker will go through it much slower than I did. The next piece on that review packet, it's actually the same piece is... Next page. So this is exponential growth. So this goes up by a certain amount every time, but exponentially. So you have to ask yourself, how did I get from 5 to 15 exponentially? So if you remember from your notes sheet, you'd write your y-intercept first. My y-intercept is 5. Now, here's the hard piece, is that you have to find your growth factor. To find your growth factor, you take your first one and you work backwards. You divide. If you get stuck in this, look back to your notes from around Christmas time when we did this. So you divide. And when you divide these two, you divide 15 divided by 5, you get 3. So my growth factor is 3, and it's an exponent, so it's an exponential problem. There's my equation, actually. We did my equation before we did anything else. So y equals 5 times 3 to the x. Okay? This is my x. So if I put in 2, 3 to the second is 9. 9 times 5 is 45. 3 to the third, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. 27 times 5 that's 35. That is 185, I believe. Did I do that right? No, I did not. I apologize. That is 2 times 5 is 10 plus 3, that's 135. And then you just finish your graph, just like that. So a lot of multiplication on there. For 200, it'll be in between 3 and 4 months. It'll be in between 3 and 4, because this will be way above 200. Hope that helps. Let me know if you need help. I know Mr. Baker went through that in class. And I believe this is my last page. Last page, 40 minutes into it. So I want you to try all of these. Pause your recording now and try all of them. All right. If the area of a square is, so I have a square, and the area is 64. I have to find out how far at the length of each side. So what times what gives me 64? And the answer is 8 millimeters, because 8 times 8 is 64. Another thing you could have done, if you knew you had sides squared, The opposite of squared is square root, so there's that. If the area of a square is a 50, a little bit harder because it does it going evenly. So my area of my square is 50. And if I'm not using a calculator, I can get close. What times what gives me close to 50? And the answer is 7. 7 times 7 is 49. So I know it must be just above 7. So maybe 7.1 centimeters. 7 times 7 gives me 49. 49 is close to 50. So there you go. If these ones are easier now, if my sides of my square are 6, what is my area? 6 times 6 is 36. And the last one, sides are 1.5. So I have 1.5 times 1.5. Just do your multiplication. 1.5 times 1.5. 5 times 5. Let me click out of this real quick. Maybe. There we go. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 1 is 5. That's 75. Put in my 0. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry the 1. 2, 2, 5, and I moved it 1, 2. That's my decimal. I moved my decimal 2 places, so I have to move it 1, 2. 2.25 inches is your area of your square. Holy cow, that was a lot. I know it was a lot, but we are done. Again, any questions, come see me. Use your notes page. Do not use your scrap page on the test. I hope this was helpful. Finish the year strong and ace that final. Good luck.